Next on Stampede.
Ministry program changes.
This is bigger than a few tweaks to the curriculum. This is envisioning a new ministry program.
An overhaul to Milligan's ministry degrees brings more hands-on experience as soon as next year. Details are next.
And with Web Hall at capacity, we're learning more about long-term plans to handle the growth.
A muddy patch could soon be a sidewalk after student government receives approval.
And this 5-year-old is now a Buffalo after joining Milligan's basketball team.
And later, meet the man who's inspiring a community through his battle with ALS.
These stories and more are coming up next.
Stampede TV begins now.
A major overhaul is coming soon to Milligan's ministry and Bible degrees. Welcome to Stampede TV. I'm Mitchell Hancock.
And I'm Kayla Baker. As Stampede TV's Carissa Lamero has learned, the changes will mean more hands-on experience for students.
Big changes are coming to Milligan's Bible program as early as fall 2018. Over the past few years, Bible faculty have looked over the curriculum to determine how they could improve the program.
We think there's some really good strengths in the program, but we recognize they can be strengthened. And one of the ways they can be strengthened is by getting more people who are practitioners in ministry involved in the training of our students. So some of the major changes that are coming include an expansion of the ministry classes that students will be able to take. And a lot of those classes will be done in hybrid form by people who are in the field practicing.
The Bible faculty hopes to bring in ministry practitioners from all over the country to teach students directly from their own experiences. They hope to offer several retreat-style classes where students go to visit those ministers and get an immersion experience into that ministry setting.
I'm most excited about just the possibilities for our students. It's going to expand their view of what ministry could be, because now places all over the country, churches and other type of ministries in all kinds of different settings become Milligan classrooms. So I'm most excited about the fact that Milligan will become a premier stop for ministry preparation, because that's what we should be.
I got the chance to sit down with junior Bible major John Guy to discuss his thoughts on the expansion of the program. While many of the changes will not affect him directly, as the program will not fully launch until after he graduates, he said he thinks the changes are good and produce good opportunities for new students.
There are a few Bible majors at Milligan right now, and so I'm excited to see the future of what the Bible program will look like and how that will affect God's kingdom in the long run.
This is bigger than a few tweaks to the curriculum. This is envisioning a new ministry program at Milligan.
Carissa Lamero, Stampede TV.
Churches are helping to raise $1 million in scholarships for the ministry programs. A soft launch is planned for next fall, with the full program to arrive in the fall of 2019.
A muddy patch of grass could soon be a sidewalk. The Student Government Association has received approval for a new sidewalk across from the library. The strip is a straight line that will make going to class a bit faster than the existing walkway that goes in a loop. Funding for the sidewalk will come from selling engraved bricks to students, much like the Sesquicentennial Plaza. SGA President Gabe Logan says the sidewalk is something that has been wanted for a while.
People have always said we should put something there, and it hasn't been till this year that opportunity has kind of realized and we can actually make that happen. And the student government, we believe that that this will not only be something that's beautiful for the school, but it also gives students something special when they come back, X amount of years from now.
The sidewalk is expected to be completed by the end of the school year.
Milligan could soon be getting more engineering students through a partnership with Northeast State Community College. The partnership gives Northeast State students the opportunity to co-enroll in Milligan's engineering courses. It will give Northeast State students a faster start to earning their bachelor's degree. The partnership allows students to get involved with both electrical and mechanical engineering classes that weren't available before. Co-enrolled students will work on multiple engineering projects, such as designing toy cars to help children with disabilities. It's just one of many projects co-enrolled students will work on. Greg Harrell, Director of Engineering Programs, says the goal is to offer as many opportunities as possible for students interested in engineering.
Here at Milligan, we want to be a resource to the Northeast State community, to the university there, and we want to be available for their students to get the classes that they need so they can transfer on into engineering programs.
Harrell hopes to see many students enroll in the new program.
It's now been more than a year since Milligan first launched an energy-saving initiative aimed at reducing our consumption by 20%. It was also projected to save 6.8% on the physical plant budget. That's more than $160,000. Since the project began in late April, more than half of the HVAC systems have been replaced. New lighting has been installed in the library and new sink faucets have been installed. A new building control system allows maintenance staff to monitor and identify problems. The control system also has scheduled running times to conserve as much energy as possible. Brent Nipper, Director of Property and Risk Management, says the goal of a 20% reduction has likely been reached, but he won't know for sure until the quarterly report is released.
After the control system has been in place for a certain amount of time, we'll be able to start comparing year to year, this month this year versus this month last year, different things like that. So it's kind of like anything else with information, the more data you have, the better able you are to use that.
Nipper says the report should be out soon. He hopes to find more ways to conserve energy.
On our last broadcast, we told you about students who are moving into married student housing due to a lack of space in Webb Hall.
We're now learning more about administration's long-range plans for addressing future growth. Milligan's student body has been steadily growing for the past few years. Even this year, we've seen former Webb residents being moved to MSA to make room for new ones. The long-term solution is to build more resident halls, but a date has not been set yet. President Greer says that many of the buildings on campus, including the Village, Milligan's newest resident halls, were made possible through donors.
Eventually we hit the right project with the right donor and we make things like that happen. That's how the Gregory Center happened, that's how the Wellness Center happened, that's how the Village happened.
Although we are still paying off debt on both the Gregory Center and the Village, Greer is confident that it can be managed.
You know, the college has some long-term debt as part of our capital structure. It's well below the ratios that would be considered problematic.
Dr. Greer told me that one of the first options for additional housing would be more buildings here behind the Village. There's space for 7 more buildings, just like the ones that are already here.
But again, we work with our trustees and donors and friends who make the funds available to us to help decide.
This has been Mitchell Hancock reporting for StampedeTV. The long-range plan also calls for other new buildings, including a multi-purpose gym, a soccer field and track, and new classrooms.
It's now been almost 2 years since student government first asked for better labeling on ice cream in the CAF. That request was first submitted in December of 2015. Labels are currently printed on the sides of the ice cream containers, but the containers must be lifted out of the freezer in order to read them. CAF managers say they previously tried stickers, but those were not practical when flavors need to be changed. SGA Secretary Becca Guthrie says the SGA moved on to other projects when it became clear better labels wouldn't be installed.
Since we pursued that last year and we got the ice cream labels on the side, we kind of realized that that was all that they were going to do and maybe could do, so we kind of just stopped pursuing it after that.
Assistant CAF Manager Corey Edmondson says he's looking for a way to label the ice cream. That's the same answer he gave us when we asked about the labels in April. He says he welcomes ideas from the students.
Freshman SGA representatives are now sworn in. Kayla Miller is the new class president. Using her previous experience as a member of student government, Miller wants to help campus activities. She has no set plans of what she wants to do, but Miller encourages freshmen to come to her with concerns and ideas.
I'm very excited to be class president. In high school, I participated in student government, and I just really found that my passion is serving other people and being a voice for people who don't necessarily know how to be a voice for themselves.
The new freshman representatives are Kaylee Mulkins, Taylor Begley, Logan Mink, and Corbin Cross.
A limit previously imposed on emails from campus activities has now been lifted. Campus Activities Director Jason Ongs was only allowed to send one email each week under the policy. It was aimed at reducing the volume of emails students receive. The limit meant that all the information for the week was crammed into one email with the limit lifted. Ongs says he can now send reminders for events.
Kind of bring information to me and ask it to be sent out. And so now that I have no restrictions, I just try to still be a good steward. And I know that it's probably not wise to send an email out every day, but generally I'll try to send 2 emails out a week as opposed to one with hopefully primary information, and then another one that has just some sort of quick reminders about some things that are going on.
Onks says the goal for him is to provide usual information, not to crowd inboxes.
Several clubs are joining together for a prayer walk tonight. IJM, Vespers, Apostolos, and FCA will be hosting a walk on campus. The goal is to blanket the campus with prayer. The event begins at 8 o'clock on the Commons. After the break, Ike Ndule will talk with chemistry professor Dick Lura about his 3 retirement attempts.
And later, meet the man who is an inspiration to many, remaining positive in his fight against ALS. More Stampede after this.
2 national championships in 1 year. It was the first time it had ever happened before.
It was kind of one of those surreal moments, like at the time you don't really realize, the magnitude of what you've done.
When one person has an accomplishment, we all celebrate, because we're in this together. We are StampedeTV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
On this edition of Have You Heard, I'm joined by Dick Lura, Professor of Chemistry here at Milligan College. Professor, it's good to have you and Have You Heard today.
Good to be here.
Okay, so for those of us who don't really know you very well, I'd like you to just give us a brief introduction to yourself and a rundown of your career before you joined us here at Milligan College.
I didn't have a career before I joined Milligan College. I came here straight out of grad school.
Oh, wow.
So I literally defended my dissertation one day and left for Milligan the next, and started in January of '71, and we're ending up finishing 17, so it's been a long time.
It really has, it really has. Prior to this interview, when you talk about Dick Lura, a lot of people say, oh, isn't he retired yet? That's the normal question I get asked a lot. So I wanted to find out from you personally, like, why did you want to retire, and just basically that?
Well, I've been here long enough. I've done this enough, certainly old enough. There were some things I was just kind of getting tired of doing. So I tried to retire. In the first year, we had a failed search. So I stayed on while we did the search. Mm-hmm. And then I was prepping to retire at the end of the summer. I was 5 weeks away. And Dr. Junker, who teaches chemistry, had to very quickly and unexpectedly retire to handle family business in Minnesota. Under the circumstances, I made the option, well, I could stay another year. Oh. And the administration said, okay. So I'm still here.
Oh, great, okay. And so I guess my next question would be, for someone who's been teaching for that long, what keeps you going? What's your motivation? What's like your everyday go-to that just keeps you going?
I mean, even though I teach the same classes, of course this year is a total different. I'm teaching something I haven't touched in 36 years. Not that inorganic chemistry has changed much, but fortunately the discipline's changed enough that you're not doing exactly the same thing.
Okay.
And as you look at the classmates you have in various classes, every class is a different personality, so it's not doing the same thing.
That's true.
It's just been fun. I still enjoy teaching. Admittedly, some of the other stuff I'm not liking as much as I used to, but teaching is fun.
That's great. Okay, could you just quickly tell us about your acting, your involvement in plays and short films? You could just touch on that for us a bit. Yeah.
I think that actually began in 2005. Gary Wallace, who's now a retired biologist, happened to be in Footloose, which Dick Major was directing, and they actually did it over in Jonesboro. And it looked like fun. So I went to Dick and I said, if you ever need small part for an older person that doesn't know how to act, I like to try it. I got in Oklahoma, and then we did A Midsummer Night's Dream, and then, The Devil Was Created. Wow. And it's just been fun. I've done a number here and in Johnson City and Jonesboro. And particularly here, it's fun to be with the students. Because, they get a different opinion of me. Oh. I mean, I'm a holy terror in class. That's kind of the reputation. And then when I start cutting up on a set, it's like, who is this guy? Some of them have a little trouble handling that. Yeah. It's just so much fun. No, I'll miss that.
That's great. That's great. Well, Professor, it's been nice getting to know you, and I'm pretty sure for those of us on campus who don't know you, they'd be surprised to know.
Probably.
A lot of things about you. Like, I've gotten to know some things about you. So thank you so much for coming, and have you heard?
My pleasure.
Thanks. The latest national world news is after the break on Stampede TV, and later, hear the message this man with ALS has for Milligan College. That's next.
A shooting on campus. It's something we hope will never happen. But it seems to be happening more and more often. We asked questions and discovered what you should do if it ever occurs here.
You could have 22 city officers in that vicinity within 10 minutes.
Now guidelines are posted in every building. It's potentially life-saving information because we're in this together. We're Stampede TV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
It's now been a week since Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico, destroying homes and knocking out power.
Now the island is still awaiting supplies for the recovery effort.
Devastated and desperate. That's the situation for millions of people in Puerto Rico.
This is no way to live, really. They should bring us water, other supplies, because the kids keep asking.
Most residents are still without power, and many others don't have basic necessities.
You can't get them there overnight because you got to either get them there by boat or you got to get them by plane.
FEMA officials say they have handed out almost 1 million meals so far, but thousands of packages haven't been delivered yet. Stuck on the island's largest port because of a lack of drivers and vehicle fuel.
The frustration of knowing that maybe right now, there's a person in need of medicine. That right now, babies, children don't have a bottle of water. And it's here. It's in Puerto Rico.
On Thursday, the White House authorized a temporary waiver of the Jones Act, which will allow more ships to bring supplies to the island. As for recovery efforts, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers vows to rebuild Puerto Rico's infrastructure, and area hospitals are attending to the sick and injured.
We have to triage patients, we have to triage logistical needs, and we have to prioritize their delivery so that we can make sure that we sustain lives in an achievable, bite-sized way.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
President Trump's tax reform plan has been released. The plan reduces the number of tax brackets, raising the lowest rate by 2% and lowering the highest by 15%.
This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
President Trump unveiling the new Republican tax reform plan during a speech in Indianapolis today, calling for sweeping tax cuts and a dramatic simplification of the current tax code.
The House and Senate will build on this framework and produce legislation that will deliver more jobs, higher pay, and lower taxes.
The plan reduces the number of personal income tax brackets from 7 to 3, doubles the standard deduction for married and single filers, and slashes the tax rate for businesses from 35% to 20%. President Trump adding the tax reform blueprint would not benefit the wealthy.
Our framework includes our explicit commitment that tax reform will protect low-income and middle-income households, not the wealthy.
But the proposal includes very few specific numbers, intentionally, allowing congressional tax writers to work them out during the legislation drafting process, making the president's claim nearly impossible to verify. Eventually moving the bill through Congress is anticipated to be a heavy lift, Democrats already blasting the outline of the plan.
Behind Republicans' vague framework and deceptive math, the American people find a billionaire's first tax plan that fails the middle class.
Cody Carlson joins us now with sports.
And he has details on a new member of the Buffs basketball team.
It's 5-year-old Eli Roberts. Meet the new team member next.
I used to think news is news. It's all the same. But it's not. There's a big difference between local broadcast news and cable news. See, local stations are part of my community, connecting me to local news, weather, and sports on every device. It makes sense. Get the news from the people I trust who actually live here. No agenda, no bias like on cable shout shows or social media, just facts. For news I can trust, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text TV to 52886 today.
The men's basketball team has added a new younger member. A day of excitement was held to welcome a new 5-year-old fighting a brain tumor. Eli Roberts, a 5-year-old boy who is suffering from a brain tumor, signed his letter of intent to play for the Buffs. Josh Roberts, the father of Eli, was greeted by the Milligan community with great support.
And, just walking in and seeing support of our local community as we walk through this journey, it's really exciting to watch what's happening.
Roberts says that this is a big week for Eli and his twin sister Emma, since they turned 5 on Monday and have just gotten back from St. Jude Children's Hospital in Memphis.
It means that he's a 5-year survivor. He was diagnosed at birth, so he's been 5 years. His MRI yesterday came as a stable result again, so he's under no treatment. He's been 18 months off of his chemotherapy regimen, so he's getting stable reports every time.
Eli and his family enjoyed the activities that Milligan had put together for the Roberts family.
They both got their own lockers with their names and a signed basketball by the whole team. Got to meet each of the guys privately and get to pick their favorite numbers, and it was pretty fun.
When Coach Robinson was asked why he would do something like this, he did not hesitate.
I love kids, and I love, obviously, basketball and love connecting kids. But anytime there's somebody in need like that, we were very willing. We've got a great group of guys. We've got an awesome staff, and I knew that they would jump on board right away. I didn't even feel like I needed to ask anybody. I knew it was something we needed to do.
Coach Robinson and his team were blown away by the emotion of the event.
It was better than I thought it was going to be, and just an incredible opportunity. Actually, while we were waiting for his dad to come, we were able to take him to my office, and he held my hand walking down the stairs and felt an immediate connection.
The Roberts family was very thankful for the opportunity from Milligan.
We're just thankful for Milligan College, and my wife's a Milligan graduate alumni. We weren't aware of that when we were connected with this team.
I'm Cody Carlson reporting for StampedeTV. The Roberts family says they will continue to pray for Eli's safety and healing. The Milligan soccer teams are in full swing this season for the Buffs. The men's soccer team has started slow with a record of 1-8-1 and a conference record of 0-3. Leading for the Buffs is senior Jack Allen with 4 goals and a 33% goal average. Senior Nick Smith has done well this season with 57 saves as the goalkeeper. The Lady Buffs are off to a hot start with a record of 6-1-1 and a conference record of 2-0-1. Sophomore Rebecca Cundiff has scored a lot this season with 7 goals through 8 games. Freshman Eva Bauer leads the Lady Buffs in the goalkeeper position with 30 saves so far this season. Both men's and women's teams return home this Saturday to take on conference foe Tennessee Wesleyan. The women's game starts at 4 p.m. and the men's game starts at 7 p.m. Now here are the scores from the other games this week. It's a series of wins for women's soccer. They won against King University 3-0. They also won against Union 2-1. Wednesday, Milligan won against Bluefield 2-0 in volleyball. The women lost to Point University 3-0. They lost to Reinhardt 3-1. Then they suffered another loss to Bluefield 3-0. Men's soccer lost to Union 4-1 and again to Bluefield 6-1. And the tennis team took home some wins Sunday. The men won over Maryville 6-3 and the women won 9-0. And that's what's going on in sports.
Thanks, Cody.
After the break, hear the story of a local man with ALS who's inspiring his community. More Stampede after this.
Hammocks. They're one of our favorite pastimes. Student leaders promise new mounts behind dorms to make things even easier.
It's going to allow for hopefully 14 hammocks.
But when a year passed with no mounts, we asked why.
The hammock mounts that had not been installed a year after the plan was announced.
Those interview requests were declined. The very next morning, those mounts were installed. We stuck with the story until the very end, because we are in this together. We are StampedeTV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
You are watching Mitchell Hancock and Kayla Baker. Cody Carlson with sports, and the rest of the Stampede TV team.
You've likely seen signs across Elizabethton with the words, "Faith over fear." These signs are in support of a local man who has ALS disease, where nerve cells slowly die, eventually paralyzing the person affected.
His story could be a sad one, but as Stampede TV's Kayla discovered, it's actually inspiring to the community.
Josh Wandell was diagnosed with ALS in June 2013. Now, just more than 4 years later, Wandell is wheelchair-bound, with a feeding tube and a breathing tube. Wandell hasn't spoken for more than a year, communicating by typing on a tablet by moving his eyes.
ALS, as you can see, takes away a lot of my abilities. In spite of that, God has given me a peace that is beyond explanation. I don't ever worry about a cure because I know the worst thing this disease can do to me is kill me.
You would think that this would be a sad story, but Wandell doesn't want it that way. You still often see a smile on his face. He's been spreading a message of faith over fear.
Faith over fear means to me that God has promised to never leave or forsake us, so what do we have to fear? He has defeated death, so there is no fear of that.
Wandell loves running, so the community has come to support him and his message through an annual race. The 5th annual race for Wandell was held last weekend to raise money for his medical expenses. His uncle Kelly Gagley says they couldn't do it without the support.
Everything you get, the equipment you get is astronomical, and you have to get it. I mean, his chair, he's driving a $50,000 chair, more than most people's vehicles.
The race includes a competition, the only certified 3K in Tennessee, and a fun run and walk.
Those in the race say Wandell's an important fixture of the community.
As a principal, kids loved him, they still do, and he has this great spirit, gives back to the community, and allows us to get back to him.
He lifts us all up and lets us know that we can overcome anything that stands in our way if we just have faith in the Lord.
Wandell says having ALS has given him a platform to share his faith.
It's really hard to be around people that feel sorry for me, or worse, verbalize it. Sure, I may be more full of love, more tolerant, and more at peace than I ever was, but you shouldn't be saddened by that. Instead, celebrate it with me.
And his uncle says ALS was not the start of his faith over fear journey. It's who Wandell is.
He didn't get ALS and become a good person. He was a good person before he got ALS.
Wandell wore his Milligan shirt for our interview, and he had this message for students.
To everyone facing a hard time in life, which we all will, I say find a friend who walks close to God and share your struggle. The Bible tells us God is near the brokenhearted, and God has comforted me through my relationship with Him and other people. Fight with all you have, and when you can't fight anymore, let someone fight for you. I want to speak to the students for a second. I want you to hear me out on this. Cling to what will last. Put your time, money, energy, and heart into what will last. At age 39, I can tell you the only thing that will last. The only one person that won't let you down is Jesus Christ. Pursue Him relentlessly. Love is the key to life. Life is short. Very short. Death is imminent. Embrace it.
In Elizabethton, Caleb Perney, Stampede TV.
Wandell continues to enjoy racing, but now from a wheelchair.
On Sunday, he missed breaking a world record by just 3 minutes as a friend pushed him through a marathon in just under 2 hours.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of Stampede TV.
For the latest news information, visit us online at milliganstampede.com.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
More campus, community, and world news is in our print edition in newsstands around campus.
Thanks for watching. I'm Kayla Baker.
And I'm Mitchell Hancock. Join us again for our next newscast on October 12th. Have a great rest of your day.